Blake Lively is in her self-described happy place.
Nice try, Reynolds. You have your own quotes. Shut up. Good call. Anyway,
Ryan Reynolds just dropped a bombshell in the ongoing Justin Baldoni lawsuit. And honestly, it's not surprising. You'd expect any devoted husband to stand firmly by his wife's side, especially during a public scandal. But that's not what's happening here.
it feels like
Reynolds must have confused the rules of pleading with the rules of evidence.
Instead, Ryan is taking calculated steps to distance himself from the drama at all costs, an unexpected move from someone often seen as the picture-perfect husband and father. But maybe, just maybe, it was bound to happen.
This is the latest filing. This is in response to Ryan's very petty and sassy response that it felt like he clearly wrote, since it had pop culture references, which Kim and I noticed. Burn book mentions. Like,
Yeah.
Come on, Ryan. That clearly.
You know, when Mean Girls comes into the filing, it's legit.
Ryan Reynolds has been suspiciously quiet about Blake Lively's lawsuit. Too quiet. And in Hollywood, silence is rarely just silence. It's strategy. The man who built his brand on wit, charm, and sharp business moves isn't one to stay on the sidelines without reason. Which can only mean one thing: something big is brewing behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think we've noticed over the past couple of weeks even, there have been a few clips that have come out of the woodwork, essentially, about Ryan that sleuths have found with some kind of problematic moments. And then there's also been the whole kid pool controversy, which definitely doesn't make him look great either.
Insiders say Ryan Reynolds has been holding private meetings behind closed doors, carefully evaluating how this PR disaster could ripple through his billion-dollar empire. Every move he makes now isn't just personal, it's calculated.
Now here Friedman is quoted in TMZ. Let's look at what he said. Mr. Reynolds' exploitation of his enormous power in Hollywood continues, this time arrogantly asking to be dismissed from the case despite his publicly documented involvement extending far beyond just being a supportive spouse.
Let's be real. Being tied to a lawsuit about undetectable smear campaigns is a terrible look for someone whose entire brand is built on wit, credibility, and sharp business instincts.
He can claim jokes or whatever, but to pull random quotes of Justin talking about his teenage years and his growth and maturity and try to use against him to label him a predator, which none of the quotes did. I actually applaud them for, even though they're not supposed to do it, for making the point to be like, nice try, Reynolds. You have your own quotes.
The latest whispers suggest that Ryan might be lawyering up, not to stand by Blake, but to safeguard himself and his empire.
And this is around the same time that he's making quotes that we have here saying that he's too big to fail at this point, that he just crushes his enemies and drinks their blood. Not a good look, is it, Kim?
Word on the street is that Ryan has filed a motion to dismiss his involvement in the lawsuit, and he's pulling out receipts to back it up. By receipts, I mean old videos of Justin Baldoni himself. Yep, you heard that right.
Reynolds must have confused the rules of pleading with the rules of evidence, which I've definitely seen some discussion online of people saying that's a little sassy. That is a little sassy.
Ryan's team is reportedly combing through the archives, searching for anything that could undermine Justin's claims. After all, in Hollywood, nothing truly disappears, especially not old footage.
Failed to set forth any basis for his liabilities. They were merely acted as a supportive spouse. No, he was not just a supportive spouse. The FAC specifically alleges ample facts to support the Wayfarer's claims against Ryan based on both his direct actions and his liability as a co-conspirator.
There's growing speculation that his legal team is already working on ways to shield his business ventures from this mess. When billion-dollar companies are on the line, the number one rule is self-preservation. If Ryan needs to cut ties before this lawsuit spirals into an even bigger scandal, you can bet he will.
This is something they reiterate a lot. We disagree, here's why, but worst case scenario, if we lose, we are allowed legally to go make an amendment, and we should at least be doing that.
The real question is Ryan already plotting an exit strategy? History shows that in Hollywood, when couples get caught in major PR disasters, one usually walks away unscathed while the other takes the fall. And Ryan, he's definitely playing the long game.
Ryan Reynolds realizes he's too big to fail. He just crushes his enemies and drinks their blood.
Ryan Reynolds isn't just Deadpool, he's a businessman, an investor, and a walking stock portfolio. Aviation Gin, Mint Mobile, Rexumph, Maximum Effort Productions. Every venture he touches transforms into a high-value brand. That success is no accident. Ryan has spent years crafting an image as the ultimate Hollywood entrepreneur. Companies trust him, fans love him, and investors see him as a safe bet. But here's the catch. Blake's lawsuit is a PR nightmare, and PR nightmares don't mix well with billion-dollar deals. The last thing Ryan needs is for brands to start second-guessing their association with him because of his wife's legal drama.
The lawyers call out Reynolds' claim that the FAC failed to identify defamatory statements and says that the argument falls on its face.
Fails on its face.
Sorry, fails on its fails.
Reynolds must have confused the rules of pleading with the rules of evidence.
And that's exactly what's happening. Insiders reveal that Ryan is privately fuming over how this lawsuit is tarnishing his legacy. He built his career and business empire on smart, calculated moves. But now, thanks to Blake's questionable PR stunts, his name is getting dragged into a mess he didn't even create. The worst-case scenario? If this lawsuit spirals out of control, companies could start pulling away.
I have not seen a case so open and shut in my life, and the more that I read and the more details that I get into, I'm just shocked how many lies were told, okay? This is about that narrative that I think they instantly started spinning. I believe that they are going to be able to prove in court.
Hollywood is filled with stories of people who lost everything over bad PR, and Ryan is too smart to let himself become one of them. That's why many believe he's already distancing himself. There were fewer public appearances with Blake and more focus on his ventures like Rexumph, Aviation Gin, and Deadpool 3. If you look closely, the shift is already happening.
So the PR machine and the fake media are once again on their BS trying to revive Blake Lively's image. And we've got to talk about it.
And speaking of bad PR moves, let's talk about that ridiculous donut shop stunt. Blake Lively, a millionaire actress and businesswoman, just happens to be casually working at a bakery in Connecticut. Yeah, sure.
Blake Lively surprises fans. What fans?
The headlines exploded. Blake Lively stuns fans with surprise shift at donut shop.
Blake Lively shocked fans by working at a donut shop amid Justin Baldoni lawsuit.
Blake Lively surprises customers with a bakery shift. But here's the catch. This wasn't some spontaneous, humble gesture.
A source tells people that Lively was in a really happy mood. What source? Her sister? Because her sister was standing right there.
It was a carefully orchestrated PR stunt, complete with her sister conveniently filming the whole thing. Because, of course, nothing screams, "I'm just like you," like a professional photo shoot while pretending to bake pastries.
Leaning over it with her hair, her Nessie, chopped. She just looks chopped, y'all. There's no other way to describe it other than completely chopped.
Let's talk about the hygiene situation for a second. No gloves, no hairnet, just Blake leaning over the food with her hair flowing everywhere. This is the same woman who launched a hair care brand, telling everyone how to manage their hair. Yet here she is, casually shedding strands into people's pastries. Make it make sense. If this was supposed to make her look relatable, it backfired spectacularly. Instead of coming off as a down-to-earth celebrity, she looked like someone desperately trying to control the narrative, all while offering customers a side of Lively DNA with their donuts.
She claims he sexual harassed her, and then by the time they premiered the movie, they weren't even speaking to each other. She made him stay in the basement, and Ryan Reynolds turned on him too. And then she claimed that he unleashed a bad PR campaign against her.
But here's the real kicker, the lawsuit itself. Blake claimed she was the victim of an undetectable smear campaign. *undetectable*. Think about that for a second. If something is undetectable, how do you even know it exists?
That it was Ryan who had called this shot, that it was very obvious now that we know his brand of narcissism. I feel like we all deserve PhDs in psychology by the end of this.
Because logically, if there's no proof something happened, doesn't that just mean it didn't happen? Instead of admitting there was no evidence, Blake and her team doubled down, throwing around big words to make it sound more serious.
It seems as though these narcissistic women, when they're caught up in some type of scandal or something, or everyone turns on them, they decide to bake or cook. Even Amber Heard did the same thing.
And yet even her closest Hollywood allies seem to be backing away. America Ferrera, who was one of her strongest supporters at the start of this mess, has quietly deleted her public statement of support. When your friends start jumping ship mid-scandal, you know things are getting bad. Meanwhile, Ryan's next move is becoming clearer. He's staying quiet publicly, but behind the scenes, he's making all the right moves: legal protection, brand distancing, long-term strategy. This isn't just about surviving a scandal. It's about making sure it doesn't touch him at all. Expect to see less and less of Ryan and Blake together in public.
He has just been publicly humiliating Justin Baldoni as soon as he could, as many times as he could, and using as many A-list actors as he could.
Expect him to shift his focus back to his business empire, reminding the world that he's a savvy entrepreneur first and a Hollywood husband second. And if this lawsuit keeps escalating, don't be surprised if we start hearing about amicable differences in the press.
This would probably end in settlement. I figured we would have settled by this point, but clearly that's not happening. And this is going to be a case that probably will not follow statistics.
Because at the end of the day, Hollywood isn't about love stories, it's about survival. Ryan Reynolds didn't build an empire by making emotional decisions. He built it by making smart ones. And right now, the smartest thing he can do is step away from this train wreck before it crashes completely. The PR machine might still be running for Blake, but the cracks are starting to show. The public isn't buying the donut shop stunt. The smear campaign excuse is falling apart, and Ryan, he's already plotting his next move. Blake Lively is in full-blown PR damage control mode, and let's just say it's not going well.
So your happy place isn't when you're lying about sexual harassment and lying about this undetectable smear campaign. That's not your happy place when you thought you had won and you thought Justin Baldoni wouldn't fight back so hard, which is what your sources have said.
In what can only be described as one of the most awkward publicity stunts of the year, Blake decided the best way to make people forget about her lawsuit was to roll up her sleeves and start slinging donuts at a local bakery. Because of course, nothing says relatable like a multi-millionaire actress casually working a shift like she's been there forever. But here's the problem. Nobody bought it. Instead of a heartwarming celebrity just like us moment, the internet immediately called it what it was: a desperate attempt to distract from her legal drama. People weren't talking about her work ethic or her supposed humility. They were talking about the fact that she was handling food with no gloves, no hairnet, and a whole lot of PR desperation. Twitter had a field day roasting her for it. One user wrote, "Blake Lively is out here acting like a struggling college student while living in a $20 million mansion." Another chimed in, "If you think this isn't staged, I have a bridge to sell you." The verdict? Blake's attempt at down-to-earth charm ended up looking like a corporate-approved influencer stunt gone terribly wrong.
I cannot get into the layers of how that is exactly how bullies operate. If you've ever dealt with a bully, if you've ever seen bullying, you're telling me you creating this character in this Disney Marvel superhero movie where you mock him, threaten him, tease him, make fun of him, and then ultimately kill him?